Okay, so the students are copying this chart down because we are doing some review, and it's because we're having a cumulative test. The cumulative, it's not accumulative, it's just cumulative. Cumulative tests will always cover at least 2 tests. Every now and then, if there's like 3 tests left in the semester, it'll cover 3 tests, but for right now it's covering 2 tests. The test you just took and the test before that. Now, let's talk about how big of a deal this is when it comes to your grade. And then we'll start reviewing that old test. Imagine for a moment you have an A on your first test, but you just took this test and you got a B. Now, you don't know that yet. You're going to get those tests back later this hour. But let's say that you got a B on that test. Now, your average is what? Well, it's a A minus or a B plus. It's right in between the two. Okay. So let's imagine for a minute that this was actually an 80% B averaged in with a 95%, then you would be averaging a B. If this was an 80 and this was a 95, so your average right now is a little, it's like a high B, but it's still a B. Then you have the cumulative test. If the cumulative test is an A on, it's separated into both tests. So it's like you're taking both tests over again, okay? So then if the cumulative test is an A on both tests, then it counts as a test and it replaces this one with an A. Do you get, you just went from an average of a B over 2 tests to an average of an A over 3 tests. That's a huge locked in A that's not going to change very much unless you really bomb the next couple tests. My point, you have a big decision to make if you're going to take this really seriously or if you're just going to kind of blow it off and go, oh, I had decent grades, and then let's say you get a B on this one. Well, you just really locked in your B because now you have 2 Bs and an A, and now you're locked in at a medium B, and you'll probably stay that way. Do you get how important the cumulative can be? Now, a lot of you have A's already, and if you have an A on the first test and an A on the second test, you'll probably get an A on the cumulative test, but it's especially a big deal for any of you that got a not A, and like a B or a C, on one of your 2 tests. Because obviously if you already have an A and you get another A and then your cumulative test comes along, let's say you even get an A minus, you're still averaging an A. Okay? All right, so the cumulative is a big deal for, oh my gosh, especially if you had 2 Bs, and then you could pull off an A on this cumulative test. It could then, if you got an A on both parts, change this to an A and change that to an A. Holy crap. That's a massive grade change. So, take this seriously. So when's the cumulative test coming? It's not tomorrow. It's the next day. So we have 2 days to review for it, and it happens Wednesday. All right, so here's some typical stuff like that chart, and there was an X line here that's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Add that into it. Put that onto your chart too. And then I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and see if you remember how to do that. That phone is going to go into phone jail, which is right here. Because you can't have it out during the lesson part. You were looking at it. I'm sure it buzzed you or somehow, tortured you into looking at it. But all right, so I want you to figure out 4 things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the first thing. Really simple. What's f of 2? Number 2, instead of f, let's do g. But instead of just saying like g of 2, let's say g of x is 5. That implies a question, which is what is x? Number 3 would be what is 2f of 2 plus 3g of 3. Whenever they get complicated, just do one thing at a time. Like figure out f of 2. Just figure out f of 2. And then just figure out g of 3. And then go back and times the first one by 2 and times the other one by 3 and add them up. Do one thing at a time. And now here is the most complicated kind to review this. For the chart kind, if I said f of m minus 4. And you're like, where the heck is m? You don't need to have m yet. F of m minus 4 is 4. Do you remember how to do that kind of a problem? I'll show you in a minute. Try to get the answers for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'll pause for a second while you give that a shot. Okay, had a lot of good discussions. That's awesome. You'll learn a lot from each other if you let them help you, and vice versa. F of 2. Here's f of 2 is up here. F of 2 is 3. That one's 3. G of x is 5. That means the y value is 5. This is the one they just called out. G of x is 5. And what they want to know is what's the x value. So you go up here, and it's 2. Number 3. First you figure out f of 2. F of 2 was 3. Then you figure out g of 3. G of 3 was 6. Now I have 2 times 3 plus 3 times 6. 2 times 3 was 6, plus 3 times 6 is 18. 24. Who had 24? That was a kind of medium hard one. Okay, now here's the difficult one. F of m minus 4. Well, there's no m on the thing. So what I would do first is figure out f of what is 4. You go here and you go f of 3 is 4. Make sure you get that. F of 3 is 4. If you get that f of 3 is 4, then you'll start to realize that this needs to be 3. So how can we make m minus, hold on, changing from a highlighter, m minus 4 be 3? Just add 4 to both sides and m equals 7. Raise your hand if you had 7 for that one. Okay, awesome. Now there's something very similar except with a chart. Sorry, with a graph. So I'm going to give you 3 points. That's 1, 2. This is 4, 6. And this is 7, negative 1. Now, if I give you those 3 points, my first question on this set is what's f of 4? Number 2, if I say f of x is negative 1, you're supposed to be able to infer that the question is asking, what is the x then? If I gave you f of x, you're supposed to figure out the x. Number 3, if f of 2p minus 1 is equal to 6, what's p? And last but not least, this one gets a lot of people, so be careful. You're going to think it's easy, but it is not. F of x is 2. I'll pause for a second while you try those 4. Okay, this is the part where I want you to compare answers 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the kid next to you. Talk them through. See if they caught the twist. Okay, so f of 4. 4 is your x, so f of x, they gave me x is 4, so that must be talking about this point. So the answer is 6. Raise your hand if you had 6. Okay, good. That was the easy one. Now there's a medium easy one here. F of x is negative 1. That means y is negative 1. That's talking about this point, and that begs the question, what is x? And x must equal 7. I think most people had that. Now number 3. This one, you got to figure out, I always do this way. Underneath it, I write f of what is 6? And I look at my function, I go f of, oh, that's this one. F of 4 is 6. If f of 4 is 6, and f of 2p minus 1 is 6, then this must equal this. And then it's a little bit of a nasty one because it's got a fraction. 2p minus 1 needs to equal 4. 2p equals 5. So p equals 5 over 2. Who had 5 halves? That's a lot of you. You were right. Get how that happened? b is equal to 5 over 2. And last but not least, I said this was tricky, and it's really not that tricky, is it, or is it? F of x equals 2. Well, it's just 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're shaking your head no, and I can tell you're confident. So, what's the trick?
It reaches y2 at two different points.
That I just drew, that is the line y equals 2. It goes through here and also hits right there. Very common for kids to only get one of those two. Would you agree if I gave you this point, it would have a y value of 2? You know, something comma 2, right? So the way to think of this is I give you y equals 2, and that's a line, and it goes like this. And it touches here, yeah, one of the answers was 1. And it also touches there, which we're not sure what it is. We could for sure say it's got to be between 4 and 7, though. So it's either 5 or 6 or some decimal. I personally think it's a little closer to the 7, so my guess is 6 or something close to 6. Anybody remember that? Ah, literally only one person. Okay, that will catch you on the test. So again, one more time, let's say we had one that was like this, and I say that that spot is 0, 3. And then I say f of x is 3, and a lot of kids are just going to say then the answer is 0. But do you get there's actually 2 answers. There's another one over there. X equals 0 and x equals, we're not sure, but something. Okay, don't let that fool you. Can't have your head down while I'm teaching. I'm almost done. Can you take out your headphones? All right. So let's go back to, if I had to take this this test, the cumulative, it's going to be pretty much like yesterday's test. I'm not going to review that right now. If you really want to review that, you can go watch the video for that, because we had a review video like just 2 class days ago. Covered everything. But here's the last thing that we had, f of x minus 3, and we'd say, figure out f of x minus 3. Well, all you might be able to say from that is that compared to the original function, it's moved 3 to the right. Does that ring a bell? Okay. But if I said that f of x was 2x squared plus x, you should be able to figure out f of x minus 3. Try to remember what that means to do.
Should be solved.
Yep, that's what I want you to do, is figure out the answer when you're asked what's f of x minus 3. The answer has x's in it. That means it's in terms of x. When the answer isn't just like a number like 6, then we say the answer is in terms of some other variable. So I hope you knew that inside the x's, you're going to place an x minus 3. Now, some kids get this far, and then they screw up right here because they just put it in the first one. There's 2 x's. You got to put it in both of them. Next place people mess up is they think that this is just x squared plus 9. Nope. It's x minus 3 times another x minus 3, and that's not just x squared plus 9. It's more complicated than that. Can you multiply that all the way out? Because that would be your final answer. X squared minus 3x minus another 3x is minus 6x plus 9. Still a 2 in front. Plus x minus 3. Now, some people get confused about, do I have to have these parentheses or not? Here's the rules. If you can't do anything on the inside, and there's nothing being distributed into it, get how there's nothing out there? There's nothing to be distributed? Then you can drop those parentheses. If you've already done everything you can inside them, and there's nothing being distributed into it, then the parentheses can be gone. So now it would just be 2x squared minus 12x would have been plus 18. I'll just put it. But then I got to remember to put plus x minus 3. Bring these down. Then these are like terms. Final answer, 2x squared minus 11x plus 15. There's your final answer. Okay, that is a review of your first serious test. The other one was just a review test, which was formative. So now your cumulative is not tomorrow, it's the next day. So now you got a bunch of time to work in class. But I'm going to also hand back your tests today, so you should be able to see that right now. If you got like an 85 on your test, that means you got 2 or 3, maybe even 4 wrong. You should fix those. That's called corrections. So if you want, I have extra copies of the test so that I can give you back your test, and then you can say, can I have an extra copy of the test so that I can do my corrections on it. All right, so some of you might want that. And it all depends on the kid. Some of you guys get a perfect paper. So this is the part where I want you to open up the homework. Everybody right now, open up the homework. It's nasty, but it's got 2 full days to do it. You're going to get a lot of work time tomorrow. You're going to get a lot of work time today. And it's not due until Wednesday. But please have that open right now. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to show me that it is open. Otherwise, what are you doing? Why don't you go get a drink? It'll help.
Oh, yeah,
Let's go. Charge it fast. Got it? Got it? Something else right now. Okay, you guys in this side of the room, turn it my way, so I'm going to see if we're all on the right page here. Still getting there apparently?
yeah.
Come check on you in a minute. All right, thank you. So, now your tests. You work on that, and slowly I'll call people up to give them their tests back. Sometimes I can just show you something for 2 seconds of like, all you did wrong was this. I did write little things on them, but I'll be handing your tests back, and if you want to do corrections because you really want to take it as a retake, then you need to correct the ones you got wrong. Wouldn't you want to like make sure you know how to do them if the cumulative is going to have the same questions? So you're going to want to fix any mistakes that you made. That's all I got for you for the video for today.